crowd and I say that you all are my kids, because we all know that it takes a village to raise a child. So all of you guys are all of the adults up here, children, and we want you to know that you guys mean the world to us as we mean the world to you. And we are looking forward to working with you guys to make sure that your future, because you are the future of our tomorrow. So it's our duty to make sure that you guys get instilled with the proper education, the proper schooling, the proper teaching that you need to be successful in life. Since this is an MLK Commission event, I think it is fitting to start off by quoting something that the late Dr. Martin Luther King once said. He said, "Love is the only force capable of changing an enemy to a friend." Just let that resonate for a minute, because we're talking about stopping the violence here in Pine Bluff, not only in Pine Bluff but across this country. We're talking about stopping the violence, and you have to ask yourself, how can I be a factor in that? How can I help out? If you as young leaders, young future leaders, young people start to learn to love each other and respect each other, that's a start. That is a big start. I'm a son of a pastor, and my father always taught me that Jesus didn't walk the face of this earth preaching religion. Jesus walked preaching love. He taught how to love one another as mankind. He taught us to love thy neighbor. I think the chant this morning was love thy neighbor. And we need to get back to those principles, loving and respecting one another as we want to be loved and respected. As young people, I know it's a tough task for you guys to deal with the peer pressure in school, the pressure of your peers, trying to fit in, trying to be that special someone. Don't let peer pressure get to you. Peer pressure is what it is, it's peer pressure. You have to learn to adjust to your lifestyle, not someone else's lifestyle. You have to be accountable for your actions. You have to be able to stand in the gap and say, hey, today is my day to be the leader. Today is my day to let the world know that I am a productive student, I'm a productive member, I am a productive human of this society. You guys have to realize that your value, your self-value, is worth way more than what our self-value was 25, 30 years ago. You guys have the technology, you guys have the capability, you guys have it all right there. You just haven't realized it yet. I know that sometimes it gets tough in some neighborhoods. Some neighborhoods are tougher than others. And I like using where I grew up at. Although I'm living in Florida and I was born in Florida, I was raised in a little town called East St. Louis, Illinois. When I grew up, when I was in middle school, the mayor of East St. Louis was at the time 24 years of age, 24 to 26 years of age. Just imagine the pressure of a 26-year-old running a city. Well, at the time, the city was already in turmoil, and we went without public utilities, such as trash pickup, cleaning of the streets and everything. We went through that period for about 6 to 8 months. We were out of school for almost a whole school year. We were on strike. That is pressure. So you ask yourself, how am I going to come out of this environment and make a difference? And a lot of people succumb to that environment, but you have a lot of people that come out of there and be successful. And the reason why I tell you this is because no matter what you do in life, no matter what obstacles lay in front of you, God is always there to place a stepping stone right there for you to get over those obstacles. I think that is very important as young people, as young gifted as young gifted Americans. I think it's very important that you guys start realizing the spirituality that you have to induce to become successful. I'm just, and it's just me, I'm a very spiritual person. We all have our flaws, our faults, but deep down inside you have to have some type of spiritual realm. You have to have some type of spiritual relationship with God. And I'm the type of person that says it had to be more than my alarm clock that woke me up this morning. We definitely have to become spiritually inclined to be successful. It's an old saying that in the country they like to say, man, you got to shake the Hanks. And it's like you got to get the bad luck off of you. What can I do to get the bad luck off of me? And sometimes you got to get in that closet and you got to call God. Nobody can do it for you. You have to have that existing relationship from the cradle to the grave. It's a very important part of you guys being successful. When we talk about stopping the violence, this isn't something that just came up out of the blue. This is something that's been going on for centuries. Now it has gotten out of hand. We have situations where a lot of our kids don't have no other alternative but to look for the streets to be that father figure, that mother figure. Essentially, we have babies raising babies. That is where we as mentors, role models, father figures, pastors, teachers, educators, that's where we step in, where we need to step in and say, like the young man said, enough is enough. Let's get back to the basics of your neighbor being able to talk to you. We've gotten to a point where your grandmother don't want to walk out the house and go to the store, fear of somebody may rob her. Nowhere in God's green earth, your grandmother should be afraid to walk out, even just to get her mail. You have to point the finger at the young and the old. You have to point the finger at the young because they just don't know any better. And you point the finger at the old because they don't want to show them no better. I'm one of those fathers that I'm hands-on. I like using myself as an example. And I take the situation whereas you don't have to have, everybody like blaming broken homes on the failure of our young men and women. And I like to say, well, I actually came from a broken home. My father lived in Miami and my mother lived in East St. Louis, Illinois. But that didn't stop my mother and father from having a relationship for me. They understood that they didn't have to have a relationship between the two of them. They had to have a relationship for me and my siblings. And that went with me a long way because as I became an adult, I got in the same situation whereas me and my wife divorced. And that didn't make Trayvon a bad kid because as much as he was at his mom's house, he was at my house just as much. He went on, he basically split time during his 17 years between households. And it kind of made him a strong individual because he understood that although his father wasn't in the same household with him every night, he knew his father was there. And that's what we have to do, man. I think co-parenting is one of our biggest issues. And we blame the mother and the father because the mother says she don't want to deal with the dad, he don't want to do certain things, and the father says he don't want the baby mama drama. Well, if you love your child, you will deal with the baby mama drama. There's just no excuse for you children to be fatherless. There's no excuse for you children to be motherless. And I promise you, as long as I got breath in my body, you guys that are fatherless will always have a father in me. I promise you that. One thing that I like talking to the youth about is understanding your self-worth, understanding what your value is. And nobody will respect what your value is unless you respect what your value is. You guys as young people, the first thing you have to do is learn to respect yourself. Once you learn to respect yourself, there are people that are around you. They are just waiting on you to respect yourself so they can start respecting you. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out. I walk into your house and there are 10 people sitting in your house that have been there 20 minutes before me. It doesn't take a rocket scientist for me to walk in there and say, good morning, good afternoon, how's everybody doing? It starts with simple things like that. That is so simple. Those are core values that we forget. That's something that's lost. Me and Mr. Robinson this morning had a conversation on what's missing. How did we get to this point where there's so much violence, where we hate each other, where, I don't know you, but I hate you. Just thinking, I said, maybe it comes from we let our kids ask us, Mama, Daddy, give me $10 so I can go to McDonald's and get something to eat. Instead of us saying, no, I'm gonna take that $10 and I'm gonna buy a bag of rice and some chicken wings and we're gonna sit down at the table and eat and we're gonna talk about how your day went and how my day went. We have to get back to that because it's not our kids' fault. One thing I'm gonna blame the kids for, and I blame my personal kids, I blame them for it every day. They come home from school, they do their homework, take the trash out, and the first thing they do is go upstairs and grab the joystick. And they are locked and loaded on PlayStation from 4 o'clock in the afternoon to 10 o'clock at night. The only thing that's doing is running up that light bill. I did two things. I said, well, it's time out for them. Took the PlayStations away from them. And I said, every day after you guys do your homework, go watch a little bit of the news and then come back downstairs and let's discuss what happened in the news today. Let's talk about what's going on around our city. Let's talk about what you can do to be a more productive person in the communities. Let's talk about how you can get out when I get up and I go out with my lodge brothers and we go feed the homeless. Let's talk about how I'll go to a hotel and I'll ask them for the little soap, the little toothpaste, and I ask them for bags and bags of it. So when we go out in the communities to those who are less fortunate, we can pass these commodities out. That's what we need to talk about. A lot of people they get misconstrued about what it is that you can do in your communities. And you can do small things like that. What can we do to empower our communities? How can we get resources in our communities? How can we stop our community from looking abandoned? If you see an older person, I'm gonna use Anthony as an example. If I can go to Anthony's house and his mother will let me pick him up in the morning and we walk his neighborhood picking up trash, that can make a difference. It shows him responsibility. It shows him that he's doing something in the community that everybody's afraid to do because they're too cool. They don't want their friends to see them do it. And trust me, there are more cool points in cleaning up your neighborhood where you stay at than you really know. So it's a lot of ways for us to, get in our communities, do the things that we need to do. There's so much talent in our neighborhoods, and we often think that you have to be the next LeBron James in order to make it out of some of our communities, and you really don't. Education, man. It starts with you guys reading, and this is a joke, but it's not a joke. Living in Miami, you have white, black, Hispanic, Chinese, Haitian, Jamaican, Puerto Rican, and we have this sort of little community organization where we get together and we discuss topics on how to make race relations better between ourselves. One of my Latin friends, he said it as a joke, but I didn't take it as a joke. If you ever wanted to hide something from a black man, put it in the middle of a book. We have to start reading. We have to start educating ourselves. We have to promote education. Education is the key, man. I'm sorry, if without education, you're not going nowhere. You do need that education. Go to school, man, make something out yourself, be prominent citizens of the community. Stop the violence, man. God giveth life, and he's the only one that has the right to take it. It doesn't matter if you are 17, which Trayvon was, or 107 years old. Stop the violence, man.